Okay.
Yeah, I am incredibly excited to be here, man. Thank you so much for allowing me to jump into this or around the fire, I guess, to jump around the campfire with you. Are you really allowed to like? Are you really allowed to jump around camp? So, you've been camping before, right?
Oh, all the time.
Okay, so when I was growing up, we would go camping all the time as well, and my parents love them, obviously, for various and sundry reasons, but they would always yell at us when we were like playing like within 15 feet of the fire. It was like, whoa, stop what you're doing. It was one of those like my mom was like, don't you get any closer. It's like, Mom, I can't even see the light. And and then I remember growing up and like being able to like sit around the campfire and realizing like, oh, this could really hurt me. This could really hurt me.
Yeah, I think that the realization of how dangerous fire was came to me when I was 12 years old. No. Yeah, like middle school age, somewhere in there. I was a Boy Scout. I got my Eagle Scout and all that fun jazz. And my favorite part of scouting, random tangent, was like the survivalism part of scouting.
Yeah, dude.
I absolutely.
Cook an egg in a fire.
I loved the ability to be able to like, okay, I've been trained in this wilderness survival to be able to, if I was dropped in the forest, I could survive for, months, weeks, whatever, was necessary. But early on in my scouting career, long before I got the knowledge that I had attained, we found that fire was dangerous because we made a fire big enough, hot enough, because we found a dead pine tree. And as scouts, we're like, oh, this is a fire starter, so let's just stick the pine tree in the ground and build a fire around it. And not only was this fire gigantic, but you know those pudgy pie irons that are made out of cast iron?
Oh yeah, dude.
We melted one.
How?
It was melted.
You can't melt those things. They're made from like the fires of hell.
Yeah, in the middle of the fire, we were making pudgy pies, and the fire got big enough to the point where we're like, we just gotta abandon these pudgy pie irons. So we dipped, and then once the fire was finally put out, I mean, we didn't dip as in like leave the fire. Obviously, we're responsible, but we eventually put out the fire, and we found the pudgy pie iron. And literally, this pudgy pie iron, it went from being like this flat, solid piece of metal. It was like this, and like drippy, and like just destroyed.
Like an impressionist painting. That's hysterical.
Yeah. So that was the first time I think as a child I had learned that okay, fire's actually dangerous, and I'm not actually invincible, because you couldn't be within. I want to say easily like 10 yards of that fire without feeling like you're on fire.
Yeah,
like it was. Whew, toasty.
That's ridiculous. If you've ever read the Bible, there's a story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being thrown into the fire of the fires of Nebuchadnezzar because they didn't. Whatever. We don't need to talk the Bible now, but it says that the fires were like 10 times hotter than the fires that were normally in that furnace, and it was so hot that the guys that were throwing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into it were burned. And I'm just like sitting there thinking like, man, how hot must that have been if they're, 10 or 15 feet up in the air and they're still being burned. And it sounds like you experienced that with your pudgy pie iron. So congratulations, Boots. You didn't start all of California on fire. Congrats, buddy.
Luckily, Wisconsin's humid enough. We were good. We're human enough here. Even though that thing was sucking moisture out of the air, it was just instant evaporating, I tell you. So
hot as South Florida, says it's Druzy. Hello, it's Druzy. Hello, the lift. Good to
welcome in lift. Welcome in Druzy. Sean Boy again. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Now, I assure you, our campfire is much safer than that. All right, our campfire is much safer than that. All right, so we're just chilling. We're just hanging around the fire. We don't got to be 20 yards back. We're not melting anything. We got this. It's safe. It's safe. We're not burning down any forests. At least
good
on purpose.
Yeah, at least yet.
I mean, podcast is fire. Then it might happen. So, Chinomage, I wanted to ask, any games you plan? Any games you hype for? What have you been up to this week? We're kind of transitioning to September, so I mean, you've got kiddos, so you got the school thing going on. Yeah. Super dad.
I don't know about that. I just had my birthday on Friday, and 2 of my kids surprised me coming home from college. Which
happy 30th birthday, my friend.
Yeah, I don't look a day over 51, do I? And so they came home, so we it was great. I cried a lot, and it was just a lot of fun. And then we spent the weekend playing, like not doing a whole lot, which was great, which is exactly what I wanted for my birthday. We played a lot of college football 25. We played a lot of FIFA. Well, it's FC 24. And then they left, and I cried when they had to go back. But on my Steam Deck, I have been playing this game called Fields of Mystria. Do you know this game, Fields of Mystria?
I do not, but it sounds up my alley.
So Fields of Mystria is like, it's early access. It's like $14 right now. It's most of the way there. Like I would say it's like pretty much a full game. So it's like Stardew, but if Stardew had a little more, I'm gonna say anime. It's not like over the top anime.
Okay.
If it had a little bit more like pixel art anime, and had some quality of life improvements. Like for example, you can jump, which is really fun. You automatically start with a sword. You run, like your walk speed. There is no walking; it's all running, so you don't have to worry about plodding through. Yeah. Farming is great. You don't run out of water in your watering can. All of the sprites look really good. There's like and there's magic too. And you can do like magic upgrades with like some dragon thing. You can cast spell. It's really, really cool.
I like the upgrade feature.
Dude, the upgrade feature and the way they do it, I don't know if you remember playing Stardew at the very beginning, but like it was tough. It was very tough. Like I remember picking it up. You had to follow a guide. Yeah. Exactly. You had to follow a guide to know where your townsfolk were and all that stuff. And Fields of Mystery has them marked on your map. I mean, it's just everybody's,
nice.
You're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. If you liked Stardew, you're either gonna really like this or you're gonna go like, this is a game for babies. But I've been really, really enjoying it, and it's given me that Stardew back in 2016, 2017 vibe where it's like, man, I could just play one more day right now. And that one more day turns into like I'm awake at 1:30 on my Steam Deck while my wife's trying to sleep, and I'm sitting on the bed on the floor going like, it's only summer, maybe I can make it to fall, something like that. So been playing a lot of that. Yeah. How about you? What have you been playing?
Oh, that's awesome. Definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
I do like the Stardew Valley games, but I like this concept of not just a farming sim, but more like, hey, there's like a dungeon crawler aspect to it, where the magic weapons come into play. Which I've got a few games on my to play list that are still like alpha play testing that I should get more time into, because they are kind of like that, where it's like Stardew Valley but like the next level, kind of like what this sounds like. But I've been crazy busy actually lately. I have not touched, so big surprise, I'm a League of Legends streamer. And I haven't touched League of Legends since Thursday.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because I've been so busy. A few things have been going on. I have gotten 3 new cats. Yeah. So there's that. Boots is now
what?
Boots is now literally Boots and Cats. Quite literally, Boots and Cats. So I've got 3. Okay, let me tell you this quick little story about how this occurred, because this was not.
You're burying the lead there, dude. Let's go.
So those of you that may not know in chat, I lost my long-lived cat month ago, about at this point, and a little bit over a month ago, and it was super rough. And like a week later, while I was delivering on my route, there was a family who had found a kitten, and it was like deflated. It literally looked like it was dead. If they didn't tell me it was alive, I would have assumed it was dead. And they took it to the Humane Society. The Humane Society, I was like, and it like was a worm in my head like the whole day as I was finishing up my route. Because the family was like, hey, do you want a cat? And I'm like, I feel like if I take that cat, put it in my truck, and it dies, I get fired. So we're not gonna do that.
You might go to jail.
Or that, yeah, because
Yeah.
Ooh. So we it was in my head all day. I'm like, so at the end of the day, I called the Humane Society. They're like, all right, we got this kitten. It's got like a 10% chance of living. So realistically, we'll call you if it survives, but don't expect a phone call. All right. So 3 days later, and again, at this point, I assumed that it had passed. 3 days later, they called me. They're like, hey, it's now got a 50% chance of living because it's gotten a lot further than we had anticipated. It's like, okay. They're like, we'll call you. I'm like, all right. So then they never called me, and I'm like, okay, you said you're going to call me. It's been like a week. What's going on? I gave them a call. The kitten is fine. Pulled through. It's good to go.
Wow.
Now, I set up an appointment to go meet the kitten because I'm like, well, I literally have been part of this kitten's death story. Well, not death. Death unto life story. So I'm like, all right, I've got to at least meet the kitten. All right, this thing's a tank because it apparently can't die. And I went to the Humane Society and met this kitten, and apparently I had found this kitten has now an emotional support kitten, or a life support kitten, not an emotional support kitten, because it is now deaf due to the traumatic, life potentially ending situation it was in.
That's a thing?
Yeah, as well as it has neurological damage in its brain as well, because it was that close to death that its body was literally shutting down. So it started shutting down things it didn't need, which apparently hearing was one of them, and certain neurological functions was another. Crazy how, biology works. And so it has a life support kitten. So I went in and I'm like, oh, now there's 2 kittens. Not one. I'm not adopting one. There's 2. Okay, there's 2. Not that bad. I can deal with that. All right, whatever. Then I leave the room to go to the front desk, like, all right, I'll take them. It's meant to be. This is what's going to happen. And as I pass, they have, of course, always the display cages in the front. And there's like 30 of them. All the newest little kittens, little puff balls of cuteness. And out of all of them, they were all ignoring me straight up. All of them were ignoring me straight up. And I walk past this one cage, and this kitten, like, jumps down, like full on just sprinting to the edge of this cage. It sits down, it looks at me, and it gives me the cutest little purr meow and the little eyes. And I'm just like, I'm a crazy cat person, I guess. We're taking this one too. So everyone there was like, wait, how many kittens are you adopting? I'm like, 3. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, why am I the crazy one? I'm helping. Helping.
Are you sure? That's how you know things are going well. If somebody says, "Are you sure about that?"
So I now have 3 kittens, which I've been very busy with. I had to get my house ready. For all the kittens. So deep clean, super clean of the whole house. I got baby gates everywhere, and well, animal gates and baby gates mixture, because if I don't got to pay for it and it's free, I'm going to take it. And they're still locked in the master bedroom, which is more than enough space. I don't want to make it sound like I've locked them in the closet. Like, they've got more space than I've got. I'll put that out there. But, dude, it has been difficult because social things... Because, again, the one kitten is deaf and has neurological problems, so, like, social things don't fully click.
Yep.
And the kitten is the kitten is actually really smart. Like, if there's not food or water, it will come to me, sit down, look at me, and meow until I realize that it's out. But
you're already dad.
Right? But the cutest thing is, it's kind of cute. Since she's deaf, she doesn't know if she's meowing or not.
Oh, so she does, like, the mouth thing.
And
sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. Oh.
And sometimes it's like a roar because she doesn't know. So she's just like, "Rah!" And it's like, whoa, I don't think you meant to yell at me, or you just really, really want some more water in your dish. I mean, 90% of the time there's still water in the dish and there's still food. It's just not enough food because cats, that's just how they go. So like sleep is kind of difficult because they're still learning social boundaries and things like that. So one of the kittens has literally every single night woken me up out of a dead sleep at like 1, 2 a.m. just like smacking my face. And then I wake up and it's like, pet me. And I'm like, what? Go to bed. So I've been way too busy to play video games lately because I've been Druzy, I've been cat dad. That's where I'm at.
Catting. Congrats, buddy. That's great. That's great.
They were thrust into my life, so I'm like, all right, this is meant to be. So who am I to fight it?
Yeah, you're a net +2 right now. Congratulations.
Yeah. And I'm seeing some of the personality traits of my past cat. Be there, which helps. It's good. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. Congrats.
It's good. So now that we've kind of caught up and we're kind of looking at, what it is that we're actually, talking about today. With Druzy, kitten cam stream as you're learning Rengar jungle or any of the crazy cat skins for League of Legends. Because, I mean, there's how many cat skins in League of Legends now? There's quite a few.
Too many.
But Druzy, that's possible. I am setting up. Okay, actually, Druzy, you got me on a tangent. We're going to run with it for a second here. I have a table now next to my desk, and I'm going to be setting up a second camera for some fun shenanigans in the future.
Love it. Love it.
Yep, it's going to be...
Always encourage more cameras. Always encourage them.
So, Druzy, who knows? That might be possible. We'll see what happens. But, again, I'm ADD here, so tangents are a thing. But for Magic, Sean Boy, maybe. I don't know. We're going to find out what that table's for. I'm not going to spoil anything because even I'm still running with it. But I just want to throw it out there. Around the Fire with Boots, this is a podcast series that will be available in VOD and on YouTube and all these things after the fact for those of you that may not be able to catch it real time. The other thing that I want to say is because our community is so diverse and so beautiful, we have so many amazing people in our community around the campfire that are Christians, that are not Christians, that are curious about Christians, that aren't curious about Christians, that want to just grind some sweaty league, or that want to, build relationship and community. And the beautiful thing about all that is this podcast is going to be focused around messages that apply to those gamers who are and are not Christian. These are just good life things that you can pick up and run with, whether you believe or not, whether you're curious or you're not, whether you're just trying to grind out some league. I'm going to tell you, some of these things we're going to talk about, as crazy as it sounds, will improve your gaming ability, because we're going to talk about a few things, and we'll get into that. Talk about a few things that bring these ideas to the surface, that improve either your love for playing a game or being able to continue playing that game without letting certain things like toxicity get to you. So I just wanted to throw that little disclaimer out there right out the gate so that, those of you that are here hanging out, even if you're not a Christian, hey, this still applies. I'm telling you right now, still applies. All right, so let's jump into it. We're gonna switch scenes real quick here. Ooh, and it worked. Nothing crashed. Oh, look at
You're
that.
like a pro streamer, dude.
Bro, let's go. It's like I've been doing this for a month or two. Actually, 9 months. 9 months, almost a year. Let's go.
Nice, man. Congrats.
So jumping right in, Chinomage, I got some questions here that I think we wanna jump into, because again, our podcast title, what does a Christian gamer look like? So this podcast emphasizes, what do Christian gamers look like? What is it that makes me a gamer but also a Christian? Or Chino, what makes you a gamer and a Christian? And is that actually different? And if it is, how is it different? So my first question for you, is what does living as a Christian look like today? Because some of these people in chat here might not know what an actual Christian looks like in terms of just normal life. Like what is it that you or I or other Christians look like today? Let's some things here.
Well, I think you need to answer that. You need to say what a Christian is not, and this might get a little... am I allowed to get controversial here?
Hey,
is that okay?
Chino, I knew that the second you're going to be on this podcast that that hot takes were going to be abundant, because that's why I watch your streams, is because we're all about the hot takes on your streams. I mean, we just get in there and we get savage about it.
Absolutely. And most of y'all are wrong. And I'm right. So we need to start with what a Christian is not. A Christian is not somebody who prioritizes the United States over Jesus, who prioritizes literally anything else over Jesus. A lot of times in our world right now, you hear Christian, and especially in the United States or in the West. So we're talking anywhere that's not the Middle East, but west of there, you hear Christian and you automatically think you're voting a certain way. You're voting conservative right. You are pro-gun. You are anti-abortion. You are pro this and pro that. There's a series of political leanings that automatically get tagged to a Christian.
Right.
And that's nowhere in the Bible, because the very core of what being a Christian is laying down your life to follow Jesus. Now, for those out there that are watching that have no clue about the Bible, that could care less about any of this stuff, I get that. And I was there for a very long time. And I will say that there is a period of exploration and all sorts of stuff that I had to do to come to the realization that, yeah, this Jesus guy's pretty real. This book that talks about this Jesus guy over 2,000 years ago, all that's real. And there are real ways to prove it and real ways to do all those other things. But back to today, walking around as a Christian today, being on the internet as a Christian today is tough, because you do get all of those labels attached to you of, well, how can you're voting a certain way, you can only go talk to these people, you can only go listen to these things, you can watch these certain news channels, etc. And that's difficult, because that's not what a Christian is. You look at what Jesus did, and if we're supposed to model our lives after Jesus didn't just say like, well, I'm only going to vote ultra right wing, I'm only going to side with, pro this or pro that. He didn't do that. You look at the stories of Jesus, you look at the autobiographies of him, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, found right at the beginning of the New Testament, and you see Jesus hanging out with quote unquote sinners, hanging out with, tax collectors, which we would think of like, oh, tax collector, that's fine, whatever. But back in that day, they were traitors, they were evil, they were despised among the ruling class elite. But then even down further the ranking, you had prostitutes he's hanging with women who committed adultery, he's hanging with men who committed adultery, he's hanging with overall sinners, he's hanging with people that should not be in the presence of a holy person at the time. And he says, go and do this, like go hang out with these people. Mm-hmm. Go and be part of these people, not because you want to cast judgment, not because you want to be over the top and showing how holy and faithful you are, but instead because you want to show love, because God is love, and we are to repeat that love out into the world. And that, fast forward 2,000 plus years later, Boots, you know this, how tough is it to show love in our world today, right? Like it's not easy. And finding a group of people that call themselves Christians only to find out that they're bigoted, that they're racist, that they're this, they're all those other things, like that's pretty common, unfortunately. And that's not what a Christian is, man. A Christian is somebody that walks in our spaces today, that loves where the unlovable are, that shows grace where the ungrateful and the ungracious are, that shows mercy where the non-merciful are, that tries to operate in those spaces that Jesus said go and do. And it's tough. Being here on Twitch, man, how many times do we get lit up for being a Christian?
Right. And the other thing too, like going off that whole love mentality, like you have a fantastic point of that baseline. That baseline is love. Baseline is love. And how even that most, because again, we said we're talking about things that will pull up ideas that are applicable to anybody and everybody, and love as a baseline, I think is applicable globally to anybody and everybody. And even being in these gaming communities, for me, League of Legends, it's very much hard to sometimes find that love but then at the same time see how much of a thirst for it that there is. Because every time I interact with a gamer on the Rift and we're playing a game and I'm encouraging, and if they mess up, I don't burn on them. I'm just like, bro, that's okay. We got this next one. Like, we're good. Like, I'm busted. You're cracked. We're gonna wreck this Rift. Like, we got this. Don't worry about it. And you know, they appreciate that, and they're surprised by it. And then I'll end up talking to them in the post game lobby, and they're like, "Can I add you?" And then I add them, and then we talk a little more, and they're like, "I don't add people, or I don't hang out in League communities because they're so toxic. This is the first time I've ever interacted with a community, whether it's on Twitch, whether it's actually playing League of Legends, that embodies that love, that isn't that toxicity, does not feed into it." Even known, I'm going to tell you right now, Chino, like you said, it is so hard to be loving in this day and age. And I will tell you right now, it is extremely difficult to be loving in a game with 9 other individuals, where in some games their goal is to just tear you down, and all you do is be that loving light. And it's hard, man. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah. Well, and the living as a Christian today shouldn't look any different than living as a Christian 2,000 years ago. Our clothes are different. Our technology is different. Our ways of speech are different. All those other things, but it should be the same, and it's not. And that's the sad part.
And, you know, that really feeds into this next question. The whole, you know, we're talking about gaming. We're talking about what it looked like as a Christian, 2,000 years ago, what it looks like today, how things have changed. So how does living as a Christian work in gaming culture? We kind of touched on the whole love aspect, but like, a lot of people look at the Bible and say, okay, well, this is an archaic text that came 2,000 years ago. Nothing is applicable today. And gaming and the internet is an element that's not even fathomed in the Bible. Like, these individuals writing it, I mean, God knows, but like the people writing it at that time had absolutely no idea what was to come, like gaming and internet. So how does it work in this day and age? How does living as a Christian work in gaming culture?
That's a little more challenging. That's even more challenging. So you talked about, being on the Rift with 9 other people who most of them could care less about Jesus. There was a study put out by, I think it was by Barna Research, maybe it was Pew Research, back in like 2021, 2022, around there, that said something to the effect of like there's 1.7 billion Christians in the world. There's 2.2 billion gamers in the world. So there are technically more gamers than there are Christians, if you go for like a one-to-one thing. Now, obviously, there's some overlap there and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But there are more gamers than there are Christians, which makes it even more difficult to find those that believe what you believe in the gaming sphere. The thing that also happens is that a lot of people that call themselves Christians carry with them this tag of I'm a Christian because I was born in Texas. I'm a Christian because I was born in Georgia.
Right.
That cultural Christianity is kind of what it's been dubbed, and that term has changed a bit, but that's what it was. And that's not how that's not how being a believer works, right? You have to part of being a believer in Jesus, and this is a spoiler for everybody out there, it's really not difficult to believe in Jesus. There's some hurdles you might have to get past, but really all you got to do is just say, yeah, Jesus, I believe, and then boom, like the transformation is complete, and then you start your journey with him. It's super cool. But finding somebody like that has happened in gaming culture, even those that are not cultural Christianities, cultural Christians, even those that do not reject everything that your Bible that culture has told them about the Bible, and you reference it's this archaic book and it's just a bunch of stories and fairy tales and it's not real, and my book says the same thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is that's the difficult part to overcome. And so what happens a lot of times is that Christians end up closing themselves off, and they don't allow themselves to be out in culture. And so then you have an even less percentage chance of finding somebody who else is a believer, which then makes the platform that you're in, such as Twitch, it makes the platform that you're in even more of a dark place, which then, it's just kind of a downward spiral at that point. But we don't have to be scared of that. And here's why I say that. Jesus, again, empowered us to go and live with the sinners, to love the unlovable, to serve the unworthy and all that other stuff. And they're present in gaming culture too. You and I are part of a church called Lux Digital Church, and I'm actually the creative pastor for Lux Digital Church. And one of the things we like to do during our streams, we stream every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And one of the things that we like to do is we'll get trolls in there. Actually, a lot of times. Thank you for putting that in there, Boots.
Gotcha.
We get trolls in there a lot, and our teams have been trained to not just attack the troll or to boot the troll or to time out the troll, but instead to engage. And most of the time it ends up being like, okay, I'm gonna laugh at you and then leave. Right. But occasionally that troll will stay around, and that troll will become part of the community, and that troll will learn a little bit more about grace and mercy and love and all those other things. This is happening only on Twitch in gaming culture right now. So that's kind of the streaming side. But I want to pause real quick, because there are some game choices that also impact being a Christian. I'm a pastor, and I struggled with playing Cyberpunk 2077. Struggled big time. I played most of it, and there were certain parts towards the end that I was like, I can't watch this anymore, and I had to turn the game off. So I don't technically know how that game ends. For my own testimony, for my own purity of mind and purity of heart. Again, there's a pornography connection there that, of course, we're thinking of. That's tough, and that's something that you need to square up with yourself. Most people don't care about that and can just plow right through that. I personally can't. So gaming choice is a big thing. Also, the community that you're surrounding yourself with in those games. For example, the Call of Duty has this 13-year-old rolling up on you with a shotgun and then cursing you and your mother and the day you were born type of mentality. Right. And that's also tough to be a Christian in, right? I envy you particularly, because you can play League and not get angry. I have played MOBAs and I just get pissed, and I don't get it. So hats off to you, my friend.
I assure you that, the funny thing is whenever I raid out to Jade, one of the things I'll always say is, Boots is the only League of Legends streamer player that I've ever encountered who genuinely enjoys playing the game.
It's true. I don't know how you do it, dude. Nobody likes that game.
And the funny thing is, I'd like to say that it's all me. I'd like to say that, I've been working on my mental, I've been working on, water off the back, which, don't get me wrong, I have, and it's important to do so. However, I have this belief that God works in large miracles, God works in small miracles. And I will say that he has... there are League players that embrace the suck. Druzy, that's a great way to put it. That's actually a fantastic way to put it. But this small miracle, it's almost a two-part miracle that has worked in my life. And I know it's not me. It's God. Because when I started streaming, I had this mentality. I was going to be a family-friendly streamer, and that was it. I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to talk vulgarity. Yes, we can get PG-13 every now and then with some jokes, but we're not hitting anything that's making it no longer family-friendly. Now, I used to swear like a sailor. I used to have a mind for very inappropriate jokes. And League, you add into it, there's the toxicity, there's the tearing people down, there's the egotism that comes with it. And early on in my League career, because I've played League since 2011, I was an egotistical bad person who was toxic, who thought they were better than everybody else. And whenever I lost, it was not my fault. It was everybody else's fault. I could do nothing wrong. And God was like, yo, bro, you are checking that at the door. So the second I started streaming, I don't swear on stream, which amazes me with such a high pressure game that I'm into. I have been able to hold off on swearing, on toxicity, on egotism. And again, these are things that obviously need to be worked on. It's not just end all, it's done. But God reached into my life and was like, no, this is being checked at the door because there's something bigger here than just you. And I'm going to help you because I love you, which is beautiful. So that's like, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, it's God-given as to the only reason that I genuinely love League of Legends, which is definitely helping the advertising for getting that game rolling. But yeah, I mean, so that was kind of my personal story of kind of like, you know, where this League journey started with me and how I've been able to reach these communities and build a community around League of Legends in a loving way to incorporate anybody and everybody who just wants to get out of toxicity, build community, show that love, have conversations, hang out around the fire. Now, Chino, do you have any stories from your, because our gaming mentality is slightly different. We game in different ways. We cross paths in a few games, but you're a huge Zelda fan. I'm not. You don't do the League of Legends. I do. So I'm sure that you definitely have probably some different stories and viewpoints from what your journey has been in the gaming world as a Christian and dealing with these things.
So when I went to college, so I graduated high school, went to Florida State University, and got to college, and immediately like some stuff happened, and I found myself really in a bad drug hole. Multiple addictive things happening, most notably cocaine and marijuana, a ton of alcohol, blew all my money, all sorts of things there. And there's a whole story there, and I don't necessarily need to travel down that path. Suffice it to say, I did not know Jesus at that time. I'd grown up in the church, but I didn't really believe any of this stuff. And in fact, I was like anti-church for a long time. I was in a bunch of bands and just being an idiot.
I get that.
I found this game called Halo. Maybe you've heard of it, from Bungie. And for whatever reason, Halo got its hooks in me, and I started playing more and more Halo, ditching a lot of school to play Halo, I would just essentially all we would do is just do a bunch of whatever we had around us and play Halo, which is definitely not Christian. We got good enough actually to be part of the MLG Pro circuit. We were MLG ranked for Halo 1 and Halo 2, which is great. We went to tournaments. We never really won any big tournaments or anything. We'd always come in third or fourth or something like that. Yeah, MLG, old school.
Oh, you were there?
I don't even know if MLG... Yeah, does MLG still exist? Maybe? I don't know.
Good question.
They should. Yeah, they should. But yeah, so MLG, Halo 1, Halo 2, and the thing that ended up happening, I fell out of love with all of that. I got a real job. Jesus kind of knocked me upside the head and said like, hey, you're being an idiot. And I got saved, and just like whacked me on the back of the head. And I got saved. I had a friend die actually, which was kind of the real big trigger. They OD'd one night, and his girlfriend found him, and it was not a pretty sight. And at that point, Jesus kind of was like, hey, do you want that to happen? I was like, no, I don't want to be like Ryan. So started leading worship and all that stuff. And then Halo 3 came out. And Halo 3 was a great game. MLG was bought by Blizzard and lives somewhere in its basement. Of course.
Sounds about right.
Well, big ups to you, MLG. Thanks for giving me Smoosh, and thanks for giving me Lizard and all those. But Halo 3 came out, and at the time I was leading worship at a church, and leading worship, for those that don't know, is essentially I'm the music director, and the sound and the creative director and all that other stuff. That's kind of what I'm a musician. My whole family, we're all musicians, and so I was at the church that my parents were at, my brother and sister at. It was a fairly large church around the Tampa area where I live, and the youth group there was fairly large as well. And I, at the time, was helping out with the youth group. This youth group was probably 100, 150 kids, something like that. And we set up what we didn't really know was going to become a thing, but we set up a Halo ministry. And we would bring Xboxes to the youth room, and this youth room was massive. I'm talking like a gymnasium size. We'd bring 3 or 4 Xboxes together. I'd network them all together. We'd have a big old LAN party, and this thing grew and grew and grew and grew. And I got to see the power of Halo being a ministry tool. And of course, like, I don't want to brag or boast or anything, but my team always won. Just because, like, I'm playing 15 and 16-year-olds, and I'm doing call outs and all sorts of stuff, and it's fine. It was a ton of fun though. And I got to see how God can use a love of gaming, a passion for a first-person shooter, to really pour into people. And this thing lasted, 6 or 8 months. It was nothing huge. It was like literally 1 school year. I actually had somebody, so he was a pastor of a couple different churches. Anyway, he's a pastor now at that same church. And he messaged me about a year ago. And he's like, hey man, remember Halo Ministry? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, he had people asking him like, hey, is there a thought to starting up a Fortnite ministry like we used to have Halo Ministry? And I was like, look at us.
Let's go.
Look at us. That's good. So, using gaming for redeeming things like that has been awesome. And then now I just kind of carry that into Twitch, and we do dumb stuff on Twitch where we'll do like tier lists, but I'll play Football Manager and Crusader Kings and Fortnite with my son and all sorts of stuff, and just talk to people about Jesus. And like, that's the best thing about it right now, man. We could just kind of be free and be loving with it all.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And honestly, when did you set up? Do you mind if I ask what year you set up that Halo ministry?
Yeah, so that would have been 2000. Oh boy, 7.
Okay.
I think it would have been 2007 or 2008, right around there.
So I started high school in 2007. So that would have been life-changing for me as a gamer nerd who existed in an area. I was a farm kid. Games didn't really exist. So going off that, actually, funny enough, you brought up this concept of like Halo as something that was unhealthy, but then God redeemed it.
Yep.
And I kind of wanted to go a little deeper into my past story with League of Legends, because again, I've been playing for 13 years.
It's a lot.
Still
you're
dirt
an old
tier.
man.
Still dirt tier, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best.
What's higher than platinum? Is it diamond? Is that what it is?
Emerald.
Emerald.
And then
Have
diamond.
you never hit emerald?
Nope. I will, again, with this whole crushing the pridefulness and bringing up humility, I will say that I wholeheartedly believe I deserve to be in platinum. but hold on, but I do not deserve to be in emerald. I am not at the skill level yet to be in emerald. However, where I am in plat, I think is exactly where I belong.
Can't you just grind out levels? Isn't that how it works?
No, you gotta beat people skill based. You can't just grind out.
Okay.
You can't just grind. I mean, statistically, you could grind out. We're gonna go on a random tangent here. There's a Korean strat, okay, that was brought out years ago. I don't know if they're still doing it.
Korean strat.
But there's where they would play a game up until 15 minutes. If the game was not in their favor, they'd surrender, boom, on to the next game. Because statistically speaking, you would gain LP and ELO from that, and you would go up in ranks. Because if the game is lost, it's lost. So they're pretty much trying to play the numbers game. So I mean, there
seems like cheating.
There are some like grind ways to go about it, but it's not the world's best way to do it, I don't think. 'Cause you're not really improving yourself, really. But I digress. Now, when I was first playing this game, I will wholeheartedly admit, without shame, I was helplessly, and I mean helplessly, addicted to League of Legends. And when I say helplessly addicted to League of Legends, if I didn't play 6 hours that day, something was wrong with me. If I went a day without playing, something was wrong with me. And now, as I just stated earlier, I haven't touched League of Legends in a week. and the amount of hours I play League of Legends is just when I stream. So like, God has redeemed. When I came back to League of Legends at Lux, ironically enough, I never played League of Legends once I broke that addiction until I came back to Lux. But we're not gonna be like, oh, Lux is bringing Boots back to an addiction. That's not good. No. What it is Lux and God had equipped me with the ability to fight that and turn it for good. Because I can tell you right now, before, and I mean, there are addictions and there are the helpless addictions. Like there's like, I don't want to say tiers, but like I feel when it comes to addiction, there's like, you're addicted to something and you're struggling with it. And there's like, you're helplessly addicted to the point where it literally runs your life. Yeah. And it was to the point where it was running my life. And amazingly enough, when I came to Lux, I started playing League of Legends again. I never felt that addiction rear its ugly head. Like, I have not once, this entire 3 years of being back to League of Legends, felt once that I was in trouble, that I was going down a bad path, or that it was bringing me back down to where I was. And I can tell you right now, that's God, because he turns bad to good and redeems it. And 2, that is community, that is support, and that is trust. Like, trusting the community. You know what I mean? Trusting what people tell you. And it's amazing. Otherwise, I'd be binging League of Legends 8 hours straight again, and you'd never see me because I'd be non-existent. So I like that you brought up the whole Halo thing. Like, I feel like most gamers have a stint where they get to that point where it's like, okay, is this a problem or is this still okay how much I'm playing this game?
Wow. That was me in World of Warcraft after that. Well, Final Fantasy 11 and then World of Warcraft. And yeah, you're right. It's you have to hit that inflection point. Some people call it, growing up, but as Christians, we know that that's the Lord saying like, hey, okay, you have this thing that I've given you that was good at one point and now has been perverted and turned in your head. Let me pull you out of that. I think it's interesting too that you talk about the fact that you were being prepared for something, right? And I think one of your earlier questions was, what does it look like to be a gamer? Or to be a Christian gamer? What does it look like to be a Christian in this life right now, especially as a gamer? And I think a lot of times games, 10 or 15 years ago, like when I was doing Halo, playing a lot of Halo, games were looked at as the things that stoners did, the things that rejects did, the things that nerds did in their parents' basement. That has evolved, right? Like everybody, we've got professional athletes who are seen as the pinnacle of cool, talking about their Fortnite builds and they're play on no build servers all the time. And we've got anime characters on the back of football cleats. We've got, the pop stars among pop stars starring with Hatsune Miku in all of these other, we've got these things happening, right? Mm-hmm. And it has now evolved into like, it's okay it's cool to like games. It's almost like normalizing the addiction. And yet we know as Christians that there's no such thing as a normal addiction. There is a way to utilize the things that God has shown us that we have been redeemed from. There is definitely a way to take our pain and our past and really the pressures amongst us. I'm a pastor. I like to alliterate things and like grab those and show people that, hey, we can use these for good, like you're doing with League. But I think that's not talked about enough. I think it's just kind of like we're relegated into the sort of like, oh, those nerds, they believe in a fairy tale Jesus, and we're just going to scoot on by.
No, and I completely agree with you on that, because whenever I try to explain to someone who's not in this element what it is I do, like whether it be my family, friends, they kind of just look at me. I mean, most of my friends aren't actually Christians, but even they're still like, I don't fully understand, because they're gamers, they're nerds, they game, but even they're still like, wait, what is this? What are you doing? Does this exist? And then a lot of people who, like in my family, who are Christian, they're like, I try to tell them, okay, I'm a Twitch streamer who's a community builder and shows the love of Jesus to those online. They're like, you do what? and I don't see any Jesus in that, but I love you and I trust you, so pat on the head. But like when I try to go further, it's just like, we don't understand, but hey, at least you're not doing this, that, or the other thing. It's like, all right. So I get what you're saying there. Now,
Love that.
we talked about a lot of things. We talked about love. We talked about community. We talked about support. There are a few things that I want to like really, really dig into. And the reason why, spoiler alert, these are some of the fundamental things that exist around the campfire, exist on this channel, exist at Lux, exist in what we're trying to do here. So I really want to make sure we take a second here to really kind of look into these as individual parts, and then how that goes into the whole. And the thing is, the whole of it is Christian gaming. Christian gaming. Break that down. What is that? And there's a few things that I really, really want to touch base on. And if I was a better show host, I'd be able to wrap some stuff together to make us hit it, just nonchalantly. But I'm gonna use a cheat card because I need it. I know you got this, my guy, but I need this. We're covering these ideas of purpose, of love, of support, and community, and how this just all wraps into Christian gaming. So let's start with purpose. I would love to hear your thoughts on how purpose wraps into Christian gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit. I think what you are doing here with the campfire is part and parcel with purpose. We exist as believers to show the love of Christ. Like that's the long and the short of it. Right before Jesus goes back to heaven, at the end of Matthew, the book of Matthew, again, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the four Gospels, the autobiography, or not autobiographies, the biographies of Jesus. Jesus dies, and then he comes back 3 days later, which is totally awesome. That's the reason that we have our whole faith.
Right.
And then walks around for about 40-ish days, and then ascends back to heaven. And when I say he walked around, like he was in bodily form. Like this is a dead guy with holes in his hands and a hole in his side, and he's walking around for about 40 days, teaching the disciples, his students and his friends and all this other stuff. And then he ascends back to heaven. And right before he ascends back to heaven, he gives what's called the Great Commission. He commissions his disciples, and he says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations." Go and make disciples. Like he gives this sort of like war cry, like, hey, this is what you're doing now, baptizing them in the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit. And like there's something tangible to hold on to, right? Like we are supposed to go as believers, as many Christ, that's what Christian is, little Jesuses. We are supposed to go into all the world. That is purpose. That is purpose writ large. Like that is our everything. And I think what you're doing here, like even looking at your panels below the stream, like you've got the Lux Ally thing, and right above that, you says our community coming together and changing the lives of others. And we're going to talk about community in just a little bit, but the purpose that you have established is that you exist right now in the Christian gaming space to bring hope and love and support to orphans in Uganda. That is your purpose. Like that's amazing, dude. Our purpose as Christian gamers is we don't necessarily need to all support orphans in Uganda. It'd be pretty awesome. But what we are supposed to do is support that Great Commission. That is our purpose. What does that look like for you and me? I don't know. I hate League. I'm not gonna play League and do that. But I might start up a Football Manager stream and like say, hey, all the nerds that are checking out Football Manager, spreadsheets for days. Like, let's go and do this.
Spreadsheets.
Hey, man, that's Football Manager. It's spreadsheets with a dude that kicks a soccer ball around, and then essentially, in the midst of all of that, show love and not laugh at people. Like that would be my purpose. I think that's an ever-evolving thing, with the very core of it being, go therefore and make disciples of all nations.
I love it. And one of the things that I really want to connect with Because as much as I would absolutely love to be like, yo, this was my brainchild, I thought of it. No, this is not any of that situation. It was a seed that was planted a very long time ago, 3 years ago to be exact. When I came to Lux Digital Church, one of the things that was brought up was who is it that Lux reaches to? Who is it that Lux can embolden, I guess would be a really good word for that. And it's again, I'm going to paraphrase because I can't quote it off the top of my head, but it's, a 30-some-year-old gamer, dead-end job, comes home at night after a long day at work, games until they go to bed, passes out, gets up, goes to that job again, and their only reprieve is gaming. But a reprieve is not purpose. Reprieve is not purpose. So the seed was planted through Lux Digital Church, through Jesus Christ. And what blossomed from that was a really big heart-to-heart introspection and prayer with God about how do league players have purpose on this rift outside of just getting sweaty and beating the crap out of each other. Well, that's where Maisha Holistic Foundation came into play. That's where sponsoring children came to play. That's where the nonprofit charity stream came into play, because God had put something on my heart, had put something into Lux that then planted a seed within me, within my brain, within my heart, within my soul. That was, what is the one thing? And again, I love our absolute diverse community here around the campfire. Like, it is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful and I appreciate it so much. Where can all of us come together on one thing? Whether you're an atheist, whether you are curious about Christianity, whether you are a Christian, whether you're just here to game, whether you're just here to find some cracked players like Druzy to carry you on the rift, whatever it may be, well, what's some purpose we can all get behind? That no matter who you are, you can see that is good, that is something we should be doing. And that's where Maisha Holistic Foundation came from. Because no matter who you are around this campfire, I promise you that in your heart, you know that sponsoring children and helping them literally live is a good thing, is a very good thing. And I find that giving that purpose to our community here, giving that purpose to people who play League of Legends, even if I'm having a crazy hard day, like I'm getting blown up in chat on League of Legends, I'm getting all the toxicity thrown in my face and then some, I have found that even just keeping in mind Trinity, for example, who is our sponsored child here on the channel, keeping them in mind, the things you can push through, I'm telling you, the things you can push through, the love you can show, knowing that even these simple, small things like showing love, which again, they sound simple, but they're complex. Let me tell you, that makes it all worth it, and pull it all together and make this beautiful community with purpose. And with that, I would love to hear about community, because Chino, you touched on it. I just threw it out there again for a second time. We've got purpose, we've covered. How does community in the digital space as a Christian look? And I know we kind of covered a little bit, but is there anything else we really need to pull together for, like, what does this community look like? Because it looks vastly different, right? It looks vastly different.
Yeah, it looks vastly different, and I think so. One of the coolest things that's happening in the Lux community, and I'm going to use Lux as the prime example here, because Lux is a series of disparate gamers and different people being kind of slammed into a Discord server, and it works in a very great way. Obviously, there's certain commonalities there. There's kind of the nerd thing happening, and there's all sorts of things there. But if you look at it, we've got board gamers, we've got tabletop gamers, we've got card gamers. Yep, we've got dirty League players like yourself, dirty, sweaty League players like yourself. I love you. We've got maybe one or two strategy gamers. You know, we've got RPG. We've got all sorts of gamers, right? With the core thing there, the teeth in the gears that make it move as gaming. Now, that right there is part of the community, but that's not what makes community. What really makes community is that It is the thing that allows your purpose to be settled and to be centered. You can have a purpose, right? You can have an engine. You can have the best engine in the world, and your purpose with that engine is to drive 100 miles an hour, and I'm going to break the sound barrier in this car at 660 miles an hour or whatever it is. But if you don't fill it with gasoline and surround it with all of the other parts and the body and structure around it, it's just an engine, right? There's nothing actually happening. The community around it, that's your structure. That's the gasoline. That's what makes that purpose actually work. That's what makes you get up in the morning and be happy to talk to somebody. These are the things that keep us coming back. There's a certain stickiness to community. I don't mean that in a gross way. I mean that in the very truest sense of this is that brings us together. It's what binds us together. The community is the thing that happens. I think a lot of people, I've been teaching, I do some coaching for a couple of different churches, and one of the churches that I've been coaching, they've wanted what's called an asynchronous community, which is, if you think about synchronous, like we're doing synchronous stuff right now. Asynchronous is Discord messages, it's emails, it's things that are not happening in real time. Or face to face. And one of the things that I have to keep that we first kind of hit on and that they keep coming back to is that they're talking about social media, and social media is not community. They keep talking about, okay, well, I want to make sure that my Instagram looks this way, and I want to make sure my YouTube looks this way. And I said, that's great, but that's not where your community is. That's just a series of posts that people are then, as advertisement. That's marketing. That's not what community is. Community is the people. It's where the church actually becomes the church. For those out there that think that that church is a building and it's this evil thing and it's trying to take your money and all that other stuff, that is a whole different discussion. But what the church was originally supposed to be 2,000 plus years ago was a group of people. That was called a church. It was called the ecclesia, the called out ones, the ones that have been called out of society. That's what it's supposed to be. So church is just a community, and that's what we're missing, right? Like those are the things that we're missing. I look at Lux though, and I think, man, we ain't missing that. We're totally there. And I look at what you're doing here, like your diverse community. You ain't missing that, man. You've got that here.
We love our community for that. I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, this community, it's like, again, you got a car. Well, you got the engine, you've got the purpose. Okay, well, where's the literal drive for that purpose? It's like, you've got your community here, and it's like you got your doors, you got your tires, you got your transmission, and it's like the more diverse the community is, honestly, the further you can drive that. Obviously, everything is pulled under one umbrella of gaming, love, non-toxicity, but that diversity allows you to have those great conversations, build those great relationships, which allows you to break that sound barrier, which is absolutely And one thing about the social media comment, which I couldn't agree more with you, because all right, chat, weirdest thing about boots, we got like a segment, weird things about boots. I do not have social media. I have zero social media. The only social media I have, if you could even argue with social media, is Twitch and Discord. Literally the only thing I have. And I am still a gamer nerd who tears it up on the Rift, hangs out with people on Discord, exists as a Christian in the digital space, and there's no social media needed. So, I couldn't agree more with you on that, because it's wholeheartedly true. There's a big difference. Big difference.
Preach.
But I love it. I couldn't agree more with you on that. I love how you tied that all together with the car analogy. It was beautiful.
I'm a pastor, man. This is what we do. We speak in stories.
Now, I'm gonna do a small. It's gonna be a softball pitch before the hard question. The hard question.
Love it.
You get a little softball pitch here. Love. We covered this. So softball pitch, love. How do we exist in the digital space as a Christian? Pulling together love with purpose, with community. What does love in the digital space look like for a Christian? Because in person, you can visually see this. Like, you can interact physically with people. Like, you could go up to your best friend and give him a hug. You could see somebody do something great in some sort of like community project, and like give them a fist bump, give them that nod, give them that smile, whatever it is. But in this digital space, we can't exactly do that. Like Mark always says, and I think it's beautiful in itself, is sometimes there are people within our communities or within our church, such as Lux, that we won't be able to hug or embrace until the other side of this plane, heaven. And it's, don't get me wrong, in a way it's kind of sad, but it's also so beautiful and emboldening in the same way, because what wouldn't give you more purpose than to be like, hey, I'm gonna make sure that I'm doing the best I absolutely can in this life to make sure that, say, one day I can give Mark that hug in the afterlife, or Chino, you, or Druzy, like or Sean Boy, like be able to actually embrace fellow brothers, and
yeah,
it's beautiful, and I love when I see all this kind of pull together. But
yeah,
in your words, love when it comes to be a Christian digital space, because it is totally different. It's totally different.
Yeah, it is, and it goes back to all the things we've talked about. Actually, it and I'm not going to preempt you here. We can talk about it in a second, but it's also part of the next one, which is support. How many times have you said "I love you" to somebody, but not felt supported by them? Zero. Now, love. The word love is misconstrued a whole ton, right? Like,
right.
Man, I'm drinking a LaCroix right now. I love this LaCroix. Like, no, I don't. But I do love my wife, and I love my kids, and there's that word that we don't actually know how to translate it very well anymore. And I could do a Greek word study on philo and agape love and all the other sort of loves out there, eros love, but the core of it is when Christians show love, it's different. It's heartfelt. It's showing support. It's showing gratitude. It's showing true care. It's not just that type of love that's looking to get something out of you. It is a truly sacrificial, or it should be a truly sacrificial love. And I look at the people in our server, in our Lux server in particular, and like there are people in that server that I love and I've never met before. And I have told them that, like, hey man, I like love you. Thanks for letting me chat to you for a little bit, because that's it's a true thing. And I think that might make some people go like, ew, a dude telling another dude I love you. Like, we're past that. We have to have that conversation. Like, we are so far past that. We don't need to. But a Christian showing love in the gaming space is remembering their name, but more than that, remembering the things they like, but more than that, remembering why they like those things, but more than that, remembering their story, but more than that, like taking the time to find out about them, but more than that, taking the time to find out how to support them, but more than that, taking time to find out how to truly minister to them, but more than that, on and on and on and on and on. Like, it's this snowball that rolls. And it doesn't matter if it's through a camera and a microphone, or if it's next to you, like sitting across a coffee. Like, is it easier to love somebody when they're in proximity? Maybe. Sometimes, maybe not. Sometimes that person, you hate the way they chew. Sometimes you hate the way they smell, and like they get on your nerves and stuff. Like, that's just a very real thing. And so I think in some ways, yeah, it's harder, but in some ways it's actually easier to love somebody on the internet from afar. And, I'm not going to go to my grave saying that, but like, I think there are those type of people. How does he know I'm chewing gum? Druzy, I'm near you, my dude.
You're that loud. You're that loud.
Love you, Druzy. Watch this. Love you, Dalton. And that's true. Like, I love that dude. I love that dude. Like, I love everything he stands for. But the very core of it is love is incredibly difficult to show. It's incredibly easy to say and incredibly difficult to show.
I love that, and I think
love that,
and it makes sense why it's the baseline, because like you said, it feeds into everything. It feeds, and like you said, it could go on and on and on. We could be here all night. Just, where does this chain take us? And that's why, at the very beginning of this podcast, we're like, that's the baseline. Like, love is the baseline, and you just go from there. And one of the things where you said, and I'm gonna throw a little plug in here, video on the page about the concept of the campfire. And one of the things, which is in every single one of my, except for this one because we're doing our podcast, every single one of my sign-ons for Twitch, my alert message, my title, the big thing, and one reason I don't change it because it's like, yo, Boots, you have the same exact title every single time. What are you doing? Like, variety, my guy, variety. And I'm like, no, this is so important. This is so important because you know, leading into support, well, love starts with story. And I think that hearing people's story, engaging with that story, remembering that story, that's what pulls us together. That's what starts building, because we're listening to each other, we're sharing with each other, and we're building something together. And that's why it's so important that whenever I say, come sit down around the campfire, share your story, wholeheartedly believe that one of the best ways to show love in this digital space, in this gaming environment, is to listen to other people's stories and genuinely listen and hear them and build on that. Because we all have a story to share, and we all have this thing that we need, which we're segueing into, support. And support, there's a few things that I want to touch on. Support comes up in many different ways. We've already kind of led into a few. Some are easier than others. But you know, I want you, this is the harder question, because support, it's complicated. Supporting people in a digital space, genuinely, when I was putting this together and I was really like reflecting on this and pulling these 4 core things out of digital space and Christianity, support was like the most complex one out of the 4 because of how difficult, at least for me, what I was looking into it, how difficult it can be in a digital space in comparison to the others. And that could just be me. If you've got the answers, Chino, I greatly appreciate it.
No, so this support is tough. So we talked about love, and like when you love somebody, you support them. But just without that core baseline of like, here's my love towards you. Like, as a Christian, we should be showing God's love to everybody, right? Like again, you talk about that's the baseline. That is the baseline for everything we should be doing. We should be showing God's love to everybody.
Right.
But support, I don't know. So support, if you think about what support is, it's the triangles underneath everything that hold everything up. It's the undergirding of everything that hold everything up. By the way, a triangle is the strongest shape in the world. Don't at me. That's like an actual truth. You know, things like that. This is the reason, you know, support are the things that hold everything else up.
Right.
Support, however, has also gotten this weird overutilization, I think, in culture nowadays. And what I mean by that is you hear everybody and their mother saying, well, I need to take, my mental health is not great right now. You know, mental health is a huge topic. And like, it's always been a huge topic. We're just now so hyper focused on it that we've lost what it actually means.
Right.
If you're having a bad day, it's automatically saying, hey McKenna, good to see you. We're automatically saying like, oh, well, I need a mental health day. Like, well, no, you can have a bad day and not need a mental health day. 2 totally different things.
Right.
Where support comes in, however, is saying, I hear you and I'm going to love you just the same. I'm going to show you love and grace and mercy just the same. I'm not going to cast you out of my community or call you anything or say like, hey, just suck it up. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'm going to support you. I'm going to put my arm around you and I'm going to show you that I appreciate you. Now, digitally putting an arm around might just be like saying hello on a stream. It might be welcoming them into a Discord call later on when you guys are playing and saying like, hey man, I know you're having a bad day. Let's get on in here and take care of some goofballs or something like that. Like, that is support, right? But support is also deeper than that. Support is that thing that when you have a cat that dies and you really need somebody to reach out to, you're going to go to the people that support you. You're going to go to the people that are for you. You're going to go to the people that believe in you, right? You're going to go to the people that love you and have taken care of you in the past, and the people that you want to take care of in the future as well. That's what support is. It's not this sort of like, I don't know, I need to phone a friend. No. Support is the balance beam that all of this hangs onto. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Lux, we have a lay counseling. Lay counseling, essentially what that means is not professional counseling. It's volunteers that have counseling training, and they're not gonna give you full coaching or full therapy or anything like that. But instead, they're gonna listen to you for a couple of sessions and try to figure out the best way to support you. That's what this is about. That's what all of the things we're talking about, that's what the love is for, that's what community is for, that's what purpose is for. It's for supporting it's the support that lives under all of these things. That's what support is.
Love it. It's that foundation, that concrete. I love it.
Yep.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And I will say, just because you spoke beautifully on that. I will say that when it comes to support, I have never been in so many situations until I started around the campfire where I've been challenged so many times supporting others in ways that 3 years ago, when I first started this Christian journey back up again after openly speaking out against the church for a very long time, and I was mean about it, and I'm sorry about that, but it's another story for another time.
He forgave you a long time ago.
But it's where you never think that you're able to support someone from across the country or even across the world, but then you find yourself being challenged by God, putting these situations in front of you, being like, hey, this person needs your support, whether it's emotionally, whether it's just, hey, let's just jump into a game real quick. You're having a rough day. Let's just game it out. Or let's actually talk it out. Like, maybe we got to talk it out. Or in the more uncomfortable way in this day and age, someone asks for some sort of help that is more of a monetary help. Like, hey, I ran out of gas. I need like $20. I'll get you next week. The internet is a dangerous place with scams. And I'm going to tell you right now, God has put certain things in my path that are challenging. And I took a straight up leap of faith of helping someone out in a way that, again, 3 years ago, I would have been extremely uncomfortable doing. And it allows us, these communities, this idea, this love, to extend ourselves in a way that allows us to support others in ways we would have never imagined. Yeah. And before, you could look from the outside in and be like, you just playing a game with someone, isn't that what you're doing anyway? Like, what's the difference? And it's like, well, when you're there in Discord with somebody on comms playing a game and they're having a bad day, you could sit there, I'm gonna tell you right now, because I've done this, you could sit there dead silent for the entire hour you're playing this game. And that dead silent hour playing that game with that person helped them more than you will know, even though not a single word was spoken. And It's beautiful. It's something that you can never underestimate.
There's a story in the Bible, and we can move after this real quick. It's this guy Job, and if you've been anywhere, you know the story of Job. But Job loses everything, and there's some spiritual forces at work, and the enemy comes, and Satan shows up and takes away his wife and his farm. He's super wealthy, takes away his wife and his farm. Well, not his wife, takes away his kids and his farms and his animals and his everything, takes it all away. And he has these friends that show up, and his friends end up being kind of weird and wonky, and there's a whole story there. Right. But the very core of it is, for 7 days, his friends show up and just sit there. And that's what they do. That's how they show their support. They are being loving. They sit there for 7 days in silence with him. You're right. That is support, man. Like that is the biggest support I've ever seen, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is too, it again, last little tangent, it makes it so that we think that sometimes there's nothing we can do. Like me, again, weird things about boots. We're just diving deep into this. You guys are getting so much boots lore. You're getting so much boots lore. We're gonna start a book or something. So I have a titch of Asperger's. Social situations are very difficult for me. Something could happen, and my brain literally cannot comprehend that socially speaking, I'm supposed to act in this way. So in supporting others, I can be put in situations where my brain literally, like, there's no connection, there's no wire, it's cut, where like I'm supposed to do this, but since this wire doesn't connect, I genuinely don't know. And in supporting people, that's scary, because it's like I'm supposed to have a conversation with this person and support them because they need my help. And I could yap on about any nerdy topic under the sun, but I have no idea what it is to say to this person because socially speaking, I have no idea. But I can tell you right now that fear subsided. That concern gone, because I know through this journey here, and again, all of our journeys around the fire, that sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's nothing. And that helps more than me preemptively putting together some half-hearted script of socially acceptable things to say in given situations and bombard them with it. Because sometimes people just need you to either, one, listen, so you don't gotta say anything at all, not say anything, and both of you are just gonna be sitting there in silence, because sometimes that's really what you need. Or three, they just want to be like, yo, life sucks, man. And it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Get it. So I think that was a beautiful way to kind of round out what a Christian gamer, what that looks like, what community looks like, the love, support, all that beautiful rounded out entity that we are. And I love it.
That's what I'm here for, man.
So now that we're kind of winding down a little bit, we've got some kind of final questions, thoughts, kind of, you know, closing things out with some moments, if you would, I guess. So let me pull some stuff. So I want chat, if you guys got questions, by all means post them. We will do our best to answer them as quickly as possible. But I know we got some mods here. Worst case, they can pin them if necessary. And I appreciate you guys for that. Mods don't break anything. Come on, right? I'm watching you. All right. So our first question, where is your identity rooted today? How does that apply to your identity in Christ? And again, we kind of got a little bit of a softball pitch out there because we covered some of these things earlier, but like, let's really bring it into like a couple sentences. Like, where is your identity rooted today? Boom, you got one thing. How does that apply to your identity in Christ? Boom, we got another thing.
Yeah, so my identity used to be rooted in Halo and drugs and alcohol. But then Jesus found me, and now it's rooted in how much I can show love and grace and mercy like I have been shown love and grace and mercy. That was one sentence. That was one sentence.
That was. Yeah. I love it. And then how does that apply to your identity in Christ?
Yeah, that's by knowing where my identity is rooted now. It really allows me to trust Jesus every day and more and more and more with my conversations, with my steps, with my purpose, with my community. It allows me to show support. It allows me to show love in areas and places and spaces, in chats and in rooms and in meetings that I wouldn't necessarily want to, because I know that my identity is not tied in the game I'm playing, the clothes I'm wearing, the chat that I am in, but instead in the God who did redeem me from drugs and Halo and pornography and all of those other things.
That's beautiful. Now, when bringing these questions, this and like really reflecting on it, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, where is my identity? Like, streamer, League of Legends player, Christian, well, learning Christian, and
we're all learning Christians.
Right. Hey, sorry, I got a quick GG's to the Miltank being caught. For those of you Pokemon nerds out there, Miltank in Pokemon Gen 2 was a monster.
Yeah, dude, Miltank.
Absolute monster.
Just a big cow.
Just roll out and it would KO your entire party, and there was nothing you could do about it. Okay.
Miltank showing up, wiping you out.
So I really had to think about this. I was like, yeah, I could just say that stereotypical Christianity or Christian or Jesus or God or something. And it's like I had to really, really pull myself to look inward and be like, okay, these are the obvious things, but like where is your identity rooted today? Because obviously, yes, Christ, yes, God, yes, like yes. But to really pull when it comes to gaming, the online existence and things like that, community. My identity is rooted in community. Now, it still plays in because the community has to do with God, Jesus, Christianity, love, all those beautiful things. But I would say, like, if I had to really pull it down to one thing, it's community as well. It's community. Now, how does that apply to identity in Christ? Well, we just kind of pulled it all together that way with, in Christ, you're building community. Simple as that.
Yep.
But I love it. I love it. Okay, so now our next thing that we've got, this one might get, this is probably a hard one, but it's one that everyone needs to hear. Like, this is definitely a very difficult situation because I feel as though most gamers, at least any gamer in a competitive sense, obviously if you got your Stardew Valley people, you've got your Minecraft people, like you can kind of just
attacked.
You can just kind of chill out, you know, if you really wanted to. But I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some sweaty mods you can put onto Minecraft to make it ridiculous.
Super competitive.
But like, how do you respond to the pressures of comparison and failure? That is hard. That is hard.
Yeah, I struggle with that one daily. As a matter of fact, I for whatever reason, my personality type lends itself towards always comparing and always wanting to be better than the person. And you know that's found in MLG gaming and Halo gaming, but that's also found even in some of the games I play, the more chill games that I play today. I mean, chill, like the football managers and the college footballs of the world, but also the even the Stardews and the Fields of Mysteries type thing. Like, I want to have the best farm. I want to be the first to the mines. I want to make sure that my team is the best team, all those other things. And if it's not, I'm comparing myself to the best teams. And I'm saying, everybody says, oh, competition is good. It is. But what happens is most of the time people that have a competitive spirit have a comparison spirit, and they're comparing themselves to the best. And I do that. And the pressure of that is weighing me down all of the time, like in every stat. So continually, going back to your last question, my identity is rooted in Christ, and I have to continually respond to that inner voice saying, yo, you're not good enough, with, yeah, but Jesus is. Like, I am not good enough, but Jesus is. I will never be good enough, but Jesus is. And that's the constant thing. And like most days, I suck at it. Most days I get it wrong. Occasionally, I get it right.
Right. No, and you said it, I mean, words out of my mouth, I'm telling you. Beautiful, as always. Now, I do want to take a little segue to Drewzy's comment. Write it down and put it on your mirror. Then listen to Good Morning Haters by Chameleonaire. You get fueled by it. I mean, everyone's got a battle song, I guess. Drewzy.
That's his.
You get it. I love it. But I would say, I think what happened was the pressure of comparison and failure was something that brought me down that spiral in the first place, to becoming addicted to League of Legends in a very unhealthy way.
Yep.
And nowadays, don't get me wrong, I can be sweating some League, and I'll feel like a little thing in the back of my head, like, bro, you're better than that. And it's like, it's knowing and recognizing that and being like, no, I'm doing my best. Mistakes happen. It's like this idea that when you're showing the love on the Rift, the way you're interacting with other people, interact with yourself.
Yep.
Like, if you wouldn't say that to your friend, don't say it to yourself. Like, on the Rift, when my random ADC that I don't know totally biffed a skill shot, got himself killed, and then I'm sitting there in lane by myself, like, what do I do now? I'm telling that guy, hey, it's okay. We got him next time. We got this. It's an easy win. Like, it happens. You get back in it and get back down here. We're gonna get the double. It's okay. That same mentality I found you have to do to yourself as well when you're playing these competitive games, because otherwise that comparison and that fear of failure is just gonna hold on to you.
Eat you up, dude.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
Yep. Eat your lunch.
Like the yin yang twins say the best. I'm gonna eat your lunch. That's a reference back to early 2000s, all right? That's a music reference to early 2000s. Oh my gosh.
I'm here for it.
Oh, I can't believe that popped into my head. Right,
yeah, dude.
It did.
I'm here for it.
It did. All right, so last question to kind of reflect on and kind of look at. We've got, pull it up here. What is my purpose? How do I fit into this world, and what makes my life meaningful? So specifically speaking of the gaming environment that we're in, the gaming world that we're in.
I mean, my purpose, how I fit in this world, what makes my life meaningful is, I mean, the combination of gaming, internet, streaming, life, podcasting, talking into microphones and screaming at cameras all day, you know, things like that. The very core of that purpose is that there are people out there that, you know, Pastor Mark says it at Lux, and like, it's one of the reasons that I find Lux so compelling, but it's also one of the reasons that I started doing digital ministry even before I knew Lux. There are people out there that have been hurt by a church, that don't know what church is, that don't know Jesus, that are antagonistic towards Jesus, that are antagonistic towards, there are people out there that could care less. And I want to see those people come to the faith. Like, I want to see those people at least have a chance to know Jesus. Whether they do or not, that's up to them. Like, that is ultimately their acceptance. But I want to be able to give them a chance. And I want Jesus to work in that chance. And I ultimately want to see all people saved because we were able to give them that chance. That is my purpose. That's how I fit in this world. If it involves me yelling at a camera for 6 or 7 hours a day, great. I'll yell at a camera and a microphone for 6 or 7 hours a day. Like, that it doesn't matter. But those are the things, those are the threads that tie my life together that make it meaningful. That plus, you know, I've got an awesome wife and I've got amazing kids, and yeah, we have our struggles and we've got all those things happening there. But the very core of it is bringing all of those things together. Yeah. That's what ties my life together. That's what makes it meaningful.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's amazing how the purpose fit into this world and make things meaningful. It's amazing how, as you look at this, because this is a pretty complex train of thought here. Like, purpose, fitting into a world, and making it meaningful. Like, these are heavy hitting, like, life-changing questions here. And it's something where, the more I reflect on these questions, the more that I look deep into, like, my personal answers to these, is how the world just, like, blends together of this online space, this gaming community, this game itself, church online, but then how that the more I do this blends into the real world. The amount of people I talk to about these elements, the amount of people that I talk to about what it even looks like, how it exists, what it is that's going on. And it's amazing how the deeper you dive into these things, the less lines there are and the more fluidity there is between your digital identity and your in-person identity, which is beautiful because that then pulls again everything together, where being authentic online, being your true self online, only helps you with all of the things we talked about today. Because without being your authentic self, showing love is going to be difficult. Being part of a community is going to be difficult. Supporting others is going to be difficult. Having a purpose is going to, like, all of the things we've talked about is very difficult without that underlying being yourself. And with that being said, I want to bring up a Bible verse here. Romans 12, chapter 12, verse 2. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, and perfection will of God. And pulling all of this together, everything we've talked about today, toxicity, loneliness, gaming culture, comparison, building community, showing love, having purpose, supporting others, all pulls itself together with this verse, where it is pleasing to God to do those beautiful things, to build the community, to show his love, to show others who he is and what he does, and truly what he wants to see in this world. Because again, the digital space is a world. It is a place of its own. It exists, and it's not going anywhere as far as we're aware. And it was one of those things where I struggled with this verse actually for a while, trying to pull out, like, what is it that it's actually saying, and how does it apply to the gaming world? And the more I read it, the more I reflected on it, I was like, wow, this actually applies to, like, all of it in a really weird way that I never would have expected. But Chino, anything you want to add in on Romans 12:2, or anything that we have had the pleasure of talking about today?
No, man. I mean, the idea that being conformed to this age is pretty simple, but being transformed is very tough. Conforming is real easy. Transforming is not, and so it's difficult. It's the first thing I said when you asked me about being a Christian in the world. It's difficult, but it's also so worthy and so validating, or worthwhile and validating, and above all, fulfilling. And we need to be able to show that to people. We need to show love and grace and community and support and purpose to all the communities around us. So, man, I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for just allowing me to come yell at this camera for a little bit, and thankful for everything you're doing with the campfire. Thankful for all the lives that you're really changing, honestly, and touching, and not in a gross way, but in a way that makes sense. By the way, side note, I hate it when people say, like, "No, you touched my life." Don't say that anymore. Like, we've evolved as a,
we're past that.
We're way past that. Please don't say that. But all that, I just appreciate you. I echo what Drew's saying. Just appreciate you, man. Appreciate what you guys are doing.
I'm very thankful that I was able to have everybody here. Chino, having you on the first podcast, honestly, I'm going to say this right now. The only reason it went as well as I think it went is because you supported me in this. You helped me in this, and you're a seasoned podcaster. You got it. And I'm just absorbing everything that I possibly can from you, and I appreciate all that help.
Let me tell you, you're like a fish to water in this. You're doing great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions real quick here. But I don't think I was trying to keep note of anything anyone was chatting about. I think we're all just kind of hanging out and having a good time in chat, which I absolutely love to see. I did see something about a league campus being started. We can touch base on that. A little bit from now, maybe we get something started there. It's going to be a meme now. Wait, what's going to be a meme now? I'm confused. Templar's comment that I now see.
I can't say it out loud.
Yeah,
Side note, I hate the word tuna, and I hate the word garbage, and now I hate that word touch. I hate the word garbage.
Use rubbish.
I use trash. Take out the trash.
Okay, trash. I got you. Yeah. Rubbish was always kind of a weird one for me, because I'm like, it sounds so, like, when you say it as an American, it just sounds so silly.
Yeah, rubbish.
In a good Scottish accent, it's nice and strong.
Yeah. You need Scottish, or you need like a thick, like, London, like, rubbish, that type of thing.
Yep. That's how I'm feeling about that. Well, I appreciate everyone for hanging out, being here for our very first podcast. having a seat around the fire. Again, I just want every one of you to know you are loved, you are appreciated, and I am absolutely so thankful that you're around this campfire with us here, with Chino and myself, hanging out, having a good time, but more importantly, showing love, showing light.